The Jewish American composer Irving Berlin once said, "Life is 10% what you make it, and 90% how you take it." This witty quote actually contains a large kernel of truth, and that is that as much as we do, as we accomplish, sometimes the most important thing that we can have is our perspective. And it's this perspective that Hashem is disappointed in the Meraglim, and also tries to fix through the mitzvot that appear at the end of this week's Parsha. The basic outline of this week's Parsha is the story of the Meraglim, the story of the spies who are sent by Moshe to Eretz Yisrael. They scout out the land, they come back with a bad report. Bnei Yisrael ultimately don't want to go in the land, they start crying. Hashem tells them that you're not going to go into the land if you're not really interested, and that is the day of Tisha B'Av. Following that, the nation realizes what they have done. Some people, called the Ma'apilim, decide to actually go to the land against Hashem's orders that they should stay in the Midbar. They're ultimately decimated. Which leaves us with the second half of this week's Parsha, which deals with 4 different mitzvot that seemingly don't go together and have no connection to what the Meraglim, to the story of the Meraglim. And that is the mitzvah of challah, of taking off dough and giving it to the Kohen when they're making bread. Secondly, what happens in the different korbanot when we, God forbid, do idol worship. And thirdly, the story of the Mikoshesh, the person who desecrated Shabbat in the wilderness. And then finally, the mitzvah of tzitzit. What in the world do these have in connection to each other and to the Meraglim? An interesting point to note when you look at the story of the Meraglim is a lot of things are a bit odd, a bit off. Are they military spies? Are they civilian spies? Are they looking for military secrets, how many troops there are? What are they strong or not? Or are they on a PR mission to try to get Bnei Israel excited to go to the land? If they're military spies, why are they bringing back fruit? If they are civilian spies, why are they looking at the power of the nations in the land? What Hashem shows them when they are there, whether it's the large fruit, or according to the Midrash, whether it's the fact that many people were dying around them as they were walking around. The reason being that, well, so people wouldn't notice them. And these people who are out and don't belong. But everything that Hashem showed them in Israel, everything they saw in Israel, could have been interpreted in one of 2 ways. And the way that the spies interpret it is in the negative. They have a negative perspective. They look at everything with a negative eye, with a bad eye, interpreting everything as if, oh, Hashem is going to kill us. Hashem is bringing us to this terrible land where people die and they have weirdo fruits. We want to go there. Part of the sin of the spies was that they didn't have faith, but they also didn't have a positive perspective. It was their perspective, the way that they saw things, the way they took it, which was maybe 90% of their sin. And that's exactly why Hashem writes in the Torah these mitzvot after the sin of the spies. We have the mitzvah of challah that the Sefer Chinuch explains is to help us not only be spiritual when we're eating holy foods, but all the time. Whenever we're eating bread, we're always eating bread. It's a staple of the diet. That something like that bread, something so mundane, it itself can also be holy. And that's what Eretz Yisrael is about, that everything is holy there. The government is holy. Working the land is holy. Building a society is holy. Things that you wouldn't otherwise think are holy. Outside the shul, outside the Beit Midrash, outside the Beit Knesset. But the entire land is holy. That was one point that the spies missed. And then finally we have the 3 other mitzvot. We have the Shabbos desecration, we have the idol worship, and the tzitzit that appear at the end of this week's Parsha. And Rashi asks, well, what is the connection between these 3 parshiot? And why specifically are they here? And Rashi explains that each of these three things are integral to our faith and are integral to our perspective. Avodah Zarah, idol worship, I think we all understand. Because idol worship gets to the very crux of our faith. We should believe in God, in one God, and not in any other. Secondly, Shabbat, has two aspects of faith to that, which is that Hashem created the world, God exists, God created the world. Not only created the world, but everything that happens to us is for the good. We have a special relationship with Him. We have a brit, we have a covenant with Him. That's what Shabbat is all about, the creation of the world, and also the Yetziat Mitzrayim, taking us out of Egypt, which is our special connection and relationship that we have. And part of a relationship is trust. That even when you can understand something one of two ways, you give that benefit of the doubt, you have faith that the other side would like the best for you. And finally, tzitzit. Tzitzit also is a reminder on our garments. As we're walking around in our daily life, that Hashem continues to watch over us. You see the blue, the tchelet in the tzitzit, and that tchelet reminds us of the depths of the water. And the depths of the water remind us of the depths of the sky. When we think of the sky, we think of Shamayim, think of the heavens, and the Kisei Kavod, the throne of glory, Hashem Himself, Hashem's presence Himself. These three mitzvot, tzitzit, Shabbat, and idol worship, Chazal tell us, are all shakul keneged kol ha-mitzvot kulam. These are all equal. Each of these are equal to all of the mitzvot combined. And so too, there's one more mitzvah that's also equal to all the other mitzvot combined, and that's Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. That's living in the land of Israel. These mitzvot are so crucial, so critical to our faith, so critical to our perspective. Hashem had to put these three mitzvot in the Parsha after the terrible sin of the spies, which was 90% how they took it, in order to help us have a clearer perspective on Hashem's presence in our own lives. It's a tremendous message, for our kids, that we should need to train them to have a positive perspective. There'll be times that will be difficult for them, a time that they might suffer a little bit. But one of the most important things is to have a positive perspective. Be positive with others, positive about themselves, and also to be positive in their faith in Hashem, that when difficult things do happen to them, that Hashem is really looking out for them, and they should be able to see the silver lining in each and every day. Shabbat Shalom.